Good morning. Beautiful fall morning, Saturday. Out doing my chores. Let the dogs out for a little bit. Chickens are hanging out with me. Probably wanting me to bring them some mealworms. Watch out, Matthew. Matthew is my little Baney rooster. We hatched him from his father. We didn't use an incubator. I was wanting the chickens to develop their natural abilities to propagate themselves a natural way. So at the beginning of the spring, we left the eggs in the coop for a while to let them do their thing, and we just check them regularly. And we got 6 chicks out of that, and he was the sole survivor, and that worked out because his father gave his life right before that. So my kidneys are a little bit better today. I didn't get up as many times last night, and I feel a lot better this morning. I did wake up at one point and felt like my arms were on fire, but that's one of the symptoms of your kidneys having trouble. They don't filter your blood very well, and you get kind of toxic, and when you get toxic, it feels like it's really uncomfortable. So I'm kind of doing a walk through here, the garden. So my doctors have never actually diagnosed anything acute. So I'll try to help you out a little bit if you've never had kidney disease, or if you aren't old enough to have some of these problems yet. That's the whole purpose of me telling you this stuff. My grandchildren and anybody else for that matter. So when you get blood work done, there's normal parameters, and sometimes those normal parameters, those are the extremes for everybody. It's not extreme, they're normal, but they're the normal range for everybody who's ever been tested. And so you could fall anywhere into that range for what's normal for you, but it'd still be abnormal. In other words, say your cholesterol, for example, is, say it's 180 overall, total cholesterol. I can't remember what the normal range is, but I know the max is 200. And I want to sit in the car because it's kind of chilly. I don't want to bug my wife recording a video in the house. She'll have to try to be quiet. She probably doesn't like to do that. Alright, so got chilly overnight. Whew. Should put my coat on. So you could be anywhere in that normal range and be normal, but you could still be abnormal for you, is what I'm trying to say. So my kidney blood work has, over the last 10 years, probably, I know it's been the last 5 years at least, I've consistently had certain markers that were just a hair above normal. And with my liver, my HDL has been just a hair low, or definitely low. And the thing about low HDL cholesterol is that you become a high risk for heart attack and stroke, which sounds kind of backwards because they're always telling you try to get your cholesterol low. My LDL cholesterol has always been in the optimal range. It's always been good, but my LDL has always been low. And so I got to work on that. Best way to treat that naturally is exercise and eating olive oil. I hear niacin's supposed to help, which I haven't done that, and I need to do that. I did do niacin for a little bit, but I noticed that after doing it for a couple of days, I started feeling uncomfortable. And I think one of the reasons why I don't like vitamins and supplements is because they create unnatural imbalances. So your body is like a glider, and in order for everything to work well, you have to maintain homeostasis, and your body has to know how to do that by itself. The only thing that you're really responsible for doing is what you put in your mouth and how you use your body, where you go with it, what you do with it. So if you're not eating a good balanced diet, then you're going to get out of balance, and then your body suffers. And this is all common sense, everybody knows. But what happens over time is that becomes a permanent damage, and it becomes more and more difficult, and you start getting more and more serious symptoms. And that becomes especially true as you age. So as you age, you have to be a little bit more careful with that stuff. And I've always been the type of person that could eat anything as a billy goat. And people used to shovel their leftovers to me all the time because I didn't want the food to go to waste, and I didn't gain weight because I was always active. I was always pretty fit until when I left the fire department, I got pretty heavy there for a while. I quit working out every day. But I got back into watching what I ate and got back into shape. And then the hormone replacement therapies helped quite a bit. That was another thing. Yeah, I got metabolic disorder at some point, I think. And I don't think they ever diagnosed it, but it's pretty obvious to me looking at the labs and thinking about how heavy I got. I got to 250. And my dad got to 252, but most of my relatives are, well, some of them are huge. Some are like 6'7", 6'5" and stuff. We're kind of on the small side of that. 6 foot, 5'11", 5'10". Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm sorry I do that. I get off track. Bottom line is, if you want to take care of your kidneys, do it naturally. Fasting. Fasting, in fact, helps just about everything, including the liver. So what I've been doing the last couple days since I found out that my kidneys were hurting and I was getting up all night and couldn't sleep, my eyes were baggy, and I, had headaches and all this other stuff. The signs and symptoms point to kidney problems and liver problems. So I started fasting, and what triggered it was I ate 2 big bowls of chili. My wife is an incredible cook. The only reason we go out to restaurants is because she needs a break and just to kind of be nice. But she makes the best food. I don't care what you're talking about. I've been to the most expensive, nicest restaurants, steakhouses, you name it. She makes the best. Whatever it is, she makes. She could make a grilled cheese sandwich and it would be perfect. I could make the same thing, do it the same way, it wouldn't turn out the same. She's got some sort of gift. So anyway, not easy to stay healthy and thin with her around, but I managed to do it by God's grace, at least to the best of my ability. But yeah, as you get older, your body produces a lot more. It's like an old car engine, right? So if you don't change the oil on a regular basis, it gets cruddy and it gets full of gunk, and it damages the engine. The more out of balance it gets, the more damage and wear and tear it gets. So your body, in order to stay healthy and lean and clean, as you age, you need to fast more often. Just like as a car gets older, you need to have oil changes more frequently. Same exact principle, generally speaking. Although we're not mechanical, so I don't want to make that mistake. But there's principles in the universe that God made that kind of are parallel throughout the entire thing. So that's one of them. So I was going to talk some more about the healthcare system. One of the best companies. Oh, before I do that, let me apologize. Nobody's probably listening to me anyway, but John Lavelle, that's his name, not John Lovett, although that's not such a bad nickname for him. But John Lavelle is his name, and I apologize. That was not, I didn't mean any disrespect. I looked that up last night because I couldn't remember. That was it. All right, so the healthcare system. I worked for a hospice company. It was the best company I ever worked for. It was by two nurses, and they worked together. And I don't know if I've told this story. I'm having problems with my memory. I know I've told this story to somebody, but I can't remember if I did it on video or not. So this lady, there's two ladies that were nurses, and they decided to start their own hospice business. They didn't like the way the model of the system was, and I agree with them. They made it much more intimate and personal, and boy, did it work! It took off. So they hired a bunch of hippies. They hired a bunch of eclectic people, um, but they didn't just limit it to that type of personality. They hired me too. I'm a veteran. I'm a very conservative. I'm an Orthodox Christian, and yeah. So they hired me as a CNA, and I quickly developed a reputation for being able to deal with the most difficult, uncooperative patients. And I don't know if I want to get into that, but basically it's just you got to be empathetic. You got to be, well, more than that, you got to be sympathetic. You got to really connect with the patient, experience what they're experiencing to the best of your ability, and then help them find their way out. Help them get to where they need to be. That's the key, and that's not what they're teaching in medical school, I assure you. Um, so anyway, the reason why this model worked so well, and these two nurses, after less than 5 years, sold their company for millions of dollars, is because of the way they set it up. So you had a nurse, a lead nurse. You had a CNA. Well, you had multiple CNAs for different shifts, and then you had a social worker, psychologist, and then you had a chaplain, whatever. Well, it's pretty much all the same, but that's basically what he was. Except this guy happened to be a Zen Buddhist, former Roman Catholic monk. It's quite an interesting character. Um, and then you had the doctors, and then you had the owners, and they also had a receptionist lady who was really good. She was very sweet. And so this group would sit down. I can't remember how often it was. It was like once a month, maybe, for each patient. Might have been more often than that, but I'm pretty sure it was once a month. And they would sit down in a big round table, and it was kind of like, King Arthur. Even though, no matter what your title or station or education level was, everybody had an equal responsibility, equal part to say. Everybody had a voice. And of course, the people who had the higher education or the leaders, but they wanted to hear from each and every person. Extremely important, especially with the CNAs, because most of the nursing homes, they have the CNAs at the care plan meetings, but they don't want to hear from them too much. And the problem with that is the CNAs are the most intimate with these people, more intimate than the social worker, more intimate than the nurses, more intimate than the doctors. We see the people as well for what they really are on a day-to-day basis. You think about it this way, and I don't mean to be crude here, but this is the best way to illustrate it. How many people in your own family that you love and know intimately do you sit down with as they're taking a dump and have a casual conversation? Are you able to do that and make them feel comfortable and not feel ashamed or embarrassed, and make them feel loved and cared for? That's the job of a CNA, among many other things. You got to joke around with them. You got to have fun with them. You got to love them. Treat them like your own family. And they truly become that in many ways. Like my wife, she's a CNA, and she cries every week. Somebody's dying or suffering horribly, and she has to vent. And that's good. I mean, we all do. I have to sometimes too. I do it in a different way, but I've cried. one of the things that bothers me the most about being what my job was is the tendency to become numb. Like old war veterans and soldiers and doctors and nurses and CNAs, whatever, emergency medicine vets, paramedics, EMTs. After you've seen a lot of it, it gets to be uh, it gets to be routine, but it's not routine for the people going through it, and you know that. And you try to make it as comfortable for them as possible. And it's not that you don't have feelings for them, but it's like your feelings are so overstimulated that they become numb. And that happens in massage therapy too. I mean, when you do vibration techniques on a person's muscle, what you're doing is you're overstimulating the nerve so that it doesn't know what to do, so it lets go. You use up all the neurochemicals that allow it to fire off. You use up those chemicals faster than it can replenish it, and the nerve lets go. That's what vibration does. That's just overstimulation. And that's what we're all doing to our brains with all the technology. Uh, we're doing it with the news, all the bad news. It's traumatizing, it's making us all numb. And that's extremely dangerous. It's extremely dangerous for everybody because when you become numb, you turn off your humanity. You turn off your sympathy and your empathy for other people. And that is not by accident, I don't think. I think there's people who are highly educated, know about how the brain and body works, and are running powerful positions in this country, whether in corporations or government or both, school systems, whatever. They know what they're doing. And they're trying to do it in such a way that it's controlled. Sorry, I live across from the school and there's people come around here all the time and I kind of have to pay attention to what's going on. Because you never know. All kinds of weirdness going on in the world. And I'm not paranoid, it's just that there's all kinds of weirdness going on in the world and I've seen a bunch of it personally. So, first rule in martial arts is be aware of your surroundings. So, anyway, I know that I'm rambling and I make this very impersonal and my videos are not polished and all that good stuff. I get it. I don't blame people for not watching me, and this is more for my grandchildren anyway, but I hope there's something edifying in it for everybody. I hope that you learn something. If nothing else, in this particular instance, the fasting and the medical system. If you can find a doctor or a healthcare plan that gives you the spiritual's foundation for everything. If you don't have your spiritual life in order, nothing else is going to be in order. I don't care what you are, what you do. Um, and I know a lot of people who are not spiritual who think they're very successful because they make a lot of money and they have whatever, all kinds of things. It's an illusion. How long into this? 18 minutes. So I think I got enough time. Okay, so I wanted to mention this too. So John Lovell and Sean Ryan, the show, this inspired me, so I want to talk about it. So these two guys have been in combat, right? And they're out of combat now, and they're talking about their experiences as if it's over and what they learned from it, and they're wanting to pass the information that they learned on to the next generation and record history as it's happened. I love that. That's wonderful. I'd like to do that for everybody. In fact, when I worked in hospice, one of the things I took care of a lot of veterans, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. I took care of people who were in major battles, and I heard their stories. I heard their family members tell me stories. I had a guy that was in a biker gang who worked for the CIA. He wouldn't talk because of all the stuff that he'd seen and done. He couldn't talk, but he slept with a gun under his pillow, and the biker gang that he was belonged to was like his family, and they told me stuff. They showed me pictures and paraphernalia and stuff things that he had done, and I had a major scientist who worked for the government and did Tesla technology stuff back. He helped invent the television and did energy weapons and all kinds of stuff. I took care of a few scientists like that. Heard all kinds of incredible stories. I would love to be able to write their stories. But I wasn't just taking care of them. I was taking care of people who had no, they were handicapped their entire life, and some of them couldn't even speak. But I learned things from them. By connecting with them and putting myself in their shoes and trying to understand why they did the things they did. I just can't imagine their life and what they've been through and all that they have to learn or to teach that they've learned. So, and violent psychotics too, for that matter. They have lessons in their life as well. But the Jon Lovett and Sean Ryan thing, to get back on track, those guys are not out of combat yet. None of us are. This whole entire life is one big, long spiritual warfare. It's been going on for thousands of years. And all the problems that we have in our lives are evidence of it. We can see it all around us. You really need to have a castle in your heart, the kingdom of heaven. Because when we're all going to die. Those guys talk about their near-death experiences in combat, but it's not really over until it's over. And it's not over as long as we're alive. And as we're, I'm starting to age and have suffering like some of my patients did on a very small scale. Things are much clearer, and I can see the importance of everything that the scriptures teach and the saints taught in their lives about the importance for preparation and watching and praying and being aware of that battle and what to do and how to do it. Incredibly important, especially when you're suffering. But it's important at all times, because when you're not suffering, you need to be preparing for suffering. Just like when you're not at war, you need to be preparing for war in order to be at peace. It's the same exact principle. So I wanted to stress that as I'm talking about my experiences and expertise in hospice and working in the medical system, and I'm going to talk about other things and life experiences that I've done. I don't want it to be about me, because it's not. I'm no better than I'm a screw up, big time, and I could use myself as an example in a lot of things, and I may occasionally, but that's not what this is about. This is not what this is about at all. So I don't want it to be about that. I want to help people navigate the medical system and take care of themselves and their families and prepare themselves for what's coming. I'm not saying what's coming is going to be horrible, but I've seen enough people's lives and heard their stories from start to finish, and witnessed enough in my own life to know that sooner or later things are horrible, things are really difficult, and you face death, and each death is very individual. And even if you're surrounded by loved ones and support, you're still experiencing it alone, and you can't communicate everything that you're going through. I've seen it hundreds of times. So think positive. Every situation has a silver lining if you choose it. If you focus on God and doing His will. Not everything I say is positive, but it's for a positive purpose if you use it correctly. So, all right, I could ramble on about a million different stories, and I intend to over time, God willing, if it's allowed. But for now, I'm going to stop for today because that's long enough. Please pray for me, a sinner. God bless. Over and out.